So today we are continuing the topic of exploring the soul. As I explained at the beginning of the year, this was going to be the topic that we were going to look at for the entire year from January through now, because it's an important topic. And I generally don't know exactly what we'll be exploring months in advance. I allow myself to listen and hear and respond to whatever it is that I hear and focus on whatever's being given to me in the day. So I don't manipulate an agenda. I don't have an agenda particularly, but I like being that conduit for people, because what I can bring through, it's not only really relevant, but if you've been paying attention to this information over years, you can also see that it's precognitive. That when I say something here, maybe you can't necessarily identify with how it fits into your life at this moment, but then all of a sudden, a year later, 3 months later, 5 years later, it clicks in that what I said years ago from this conduit, it's resonating because it's relevant. So you guys always get a little advanced peek into what we're exploring in humanity unknowingly, but you get to have it defined, therefore you get to know how to make it your ally and to work with that energy instead of battling against the energy. In exploration of the soul, I know that there's a topic that your guides are going to want to focus on tonight in particular, but I do want to say something to begin with. You all know me well enough to know that I don't really pay any attention to ways that other people focus on spirituality or energy in the universe, or any way that we can qualify or define what we experience, whether it's through astrology, or whether it's through crystals or chakras. I don't explore or use any of that language, which is fine, because there's thousands of vehicles or infinite vehicles to the same knowledge. That being said, there are occasions when I receive information about something that is a topic that there are some people that are really exploring as a way to explain changes that are happening on Earth. And one of those topics is the idea of how the universe itself and the planets and the stars and the moons affect our consciousness and how it works within our consciousness. And I have made note that the month of September this year has been, there's been a shift in the energy of the universe. The way that we can validate that that shift is happening is that we have experiential knowledge through Garvey and Irma and a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, and probably people have been seeing some maybe a little bit unusual or out of character behaviors among the people that we think we can predict a little bit more than we have been able to predict them lately. So you have some evidence. It might not be that scientific, but at least you can see and sink your teeth into the idea that there is an energetic shift that's happening right now. Now, what I'm going to help you to understand is why this is happening, but how we can make this our asset instead of making it our enemy. The shifts are going to happen. The universe is just a little tiny bit bigger than us. Even though we are the universe, it still has a little bit more energy than we have as individuals. So you want to work with the flow of the energetic changes instead of working against it. So I want to explain something, and some of it is a synthesis of things that I have been talking about for a lot of years. Humanity is growing. We're opening to a new positive level of awareness at an accelerated rate. At an accelerated rate is the part that's a little bit hard to wrap your head around, because we can understand something that is happening and we can follow the line of how something is increasing. But when it happens at an accelerated pace, that means given a certain period of time, it happens exponentially more quickly than it did happen before. So the growth that we experienced in the year 0 to the year 1000, well, growth was, 1000 to 2000, it's like, whoa, look what's going on here. And then all of a sudden, 1900 hit. And instead of looking at things in terms of 1,000 years growth, we were experiencing growth in decades rather than hundreds of years or thousands of years. People have now had the ability to see the world change around them within multiple times throughout one lifetime, where you used to have some kind of constancy. You know, it might be a little something new, and it was talked about for a decade. Everybody was afraid of how it would affect their reality. But not anymore. Things happen so quickly that you can get a patent, and then 3 months later, the patent can be obsolete. That's how rapidly things are happening. So we can turn to the earthly explanation as coming from advances in technology, from our interconnectedness through communications and transportation and the internet. That's the earthly explanation for why we're experiencing this rapidity. But the soulful, universal explanation is that our earth life is reflecting this acceleration in the growth of humanity's positive level of awareness. So all of this interconnectedness and instantaneous knowledge and reach is a consequence of our growth. It's not the cause of our growth. And that's a really important thing to remember. So it's important that as we're experiencing these changes so rapidly, we have to be able to adapt, and we have to be able to adapt very quickly. There's no longer 10 years to catch up to something. Hold on. There's no longer time to spend 10 years catching up to a change in order to stay connected to the world that you're already living in, including just your immediate family, and in order to stay relevant to the changes, you have to be able to move. That was my own saliva I'm choking on. Must have been about to say something I wasn't supposed to say. That breaks! Make her choke! Okay. So you have to be adaptable and more quickly. Okay, you have to adapt to the changes outside of you more quickly. And so that's part of what the shift is going on in this month, is to help us to be adaptable. But the other part of it, and this is the really important part to think about for yourself, I always like to use the analogy of our own personal growth and development as we have a canvas on which we are painting this life. This is your life as whomever you are from the moment of birth until the moment of death. This slice of life is this canvas. This is a painting. In the early part of your life, the first 10 years more than ever, somebody else was painting the background for you. You had almost no influence on the strokes that went onto that canvas. It was based on who your caregivers were. It was based on your community, your geography, other people's expectations, other people's ability to vibrate with the vibration of love so they could keep you connected to your own soulful ability to love yourself. So other people were painting and painting and painting. And if you had a really difficult childhood, this painting might not be very pretty. You might not like the painting. You might not like the background. So as you have your own growth and you remove some of the pain or struggles that you had in your childhood, your goal is to pick up your own paintbrush and your own paints and paint it the way that you want it to be. And that's what we do. Those who can't understand and comprehend the link between their childhood and how they separated from their ability to live as full and free souls to the essence of their being, they generally can't paint this canvas in a way that suits them. They'll just echo the strokes that other people put there and live within an image that they're not enjoying. So people who start the process of awakening, what they do is they by choice say, not so much, not liking the way that looks, I'm going to repaint this. And sometimes people will have a dramatic opening into that discovery that there are other influences in how I'm choosing to live my life. And the dramatic change in their perception would mean that I'm going to scrub this. I'm going to take the biggest can of white paint that this world has ever seen, and I'm going to just paint all over this damn stuff, and I'm going to start fresh. You know, if you've ever heard of someone that had a stroke and their left brain was compromised, or someone that had a near-death experience, and you see the shift in their perception of reality and what's important and what they focus on, that would be an example of someone that is starting over with their canvas as best as they can. For me, my awakening on 9/11, it started the process of me being consciously aware that this canvas was painted by someone other than me, and that I wasn't that keen on how it looked. That's when my consciousness began to wake up. So as you're going through the journey of enlightenment and you're scrubbing away other people's influences and their strokes on your canvas, you start to actively choose, who am I going to let help me paint? It's not that you have to do it by yourself, but who do I want to help me paint this canvas? And now sometimes you make some really hard decisions. Well, you know, my mother's been helping me paint this thing for 35 years, but wow, she has a bad eye. And I have either got to get her some art lessons or she is off my canvas. And the minute you tell her she's off the canvas, she's going to come in with lots and lots of cans of, what are those colors called? Swamp water, browns, and deep olives mixed with blends of black. And she's going to come with those paints, and she's going to say, move over, this is my canvas, I'm going to paint it the way I want. And you have to have the strength and the courage and the love and the discipline and the commitment and focus on yourself to say, no, you're either going to help me paint it the way I see it and envision it for myself, or you have to take your paints and your paintbrushes and go somewhere else. Now, I took a long story and I made it in a short version with the mother, but everybody understands the idea. It takes a long time to get rid of someone that has uncomfortably influenced your life and tries to continue that pursuit. But in the long run, our goal in this physical body, in this body that houses our soul, our goal is to paint this with the essence of our being, with our light, with our originality, with our strength, with exactly who we are by choice. Doesn't mean that we can't have had influences, because sometimes even a negative influence pops something brilliant and wonderful within us. But then we've also had positive influences as well, and they'll help us with making this beautiful, rich canvas, because it's nice to co-create. Now, let's get back to the energy of September 2017. Humanity has been accelerating in the process of enlightenment. However, the process is going a little faster than humans can catch up to. So what's happening is that we're seeing these incredible divides between how people are perceiving reality, okay? There's a greater separation between people's ideas of what's right and what's wrong and what's good and what's bad. And these are separating us rather than uniting us. And this has been happening basically since 9/11 in a more exaggerated way than it had been happening in decades earlier. So what the universe does is it provides us with increasing opportunities to unite. And those ways to unite have come from a lot of different directions. You might not see them necessarily as ways to help us unite, but that's what they are. They have a lot of other values and a lot of other meanings, but the overriding purpose is to help us to unite and to focus on what matters instead of what is insignificant or superfluous. So look at, since 2001, some of those changes that have happened. We have a tremendous increase in autism. What is autism? Autism is a vehicle for discovery that can help people get back to communicating without language in order to bring the best potential outcome to a person experiencing autism. You have to use other senses other than language. Therefore, the increase in autism, I'm not talking about the earthly explanation. Go out there, do whatever you want to find the earthly explanation. It's not the relevant factor. But what it's doing for humanity is giving us an opportunity to have a lot of people say there are ways to connect without language. The way we used to connect, sharing consciousness, being, looking, touching, feeling, sensing, intuiting. We all have the capability of doing that, but we have been conditioned out of that sense. So autism is giving us an opportunity to reconnect with that sense. So what else has happened? What else has happened? We have terrorism. Oh yeah, that's a fun topic, right? How does that help us unite? It gives us the idea that, number one, we have a commonality. In our country, regardless of political party or affiliation, we can believe that we need to, quote unquote, fight against a common enemy. The purpose of it is to help us to unite once again and to see the similarities rather than the differences. You know, if we can't use these examples that are coming up to help us grow the way our souls are wanting us to grow collectively, then more opportunities are going to come up. And one of those next opportunities is extremes in weather conditions. We can debate global warming. I don't have a problem debating global warming. I'm happy to debate global warming. But the consequence of global warming, whether you believe it's a thing or not, the consequence is here, which is anomalous weather patterns, unpredictable behavior in weather that had been able to be predicted for generations before us. It's not about necessarily just the sea levels rising, it's about changes in weather patterns and us not being able to predict what will happen in any particular region anymore. So we are seeing these extremes. We're seeing 80-degree days in December. We're seeing 40-degree days in June. We're seeing Irma. We're seeing Sandy. We're seeing earthquakes. We're seeing tsunamis. We're seeing things that are not following patterns that we have noted in recorded history. Now, like I said, I'm happy to debate global warming. But it's really essential when you're thinking about the canvas of reality that we paint, that we understand that our universe and our earth respond to consciousness. We don't respond to the earth and the universe. The universe and the earth respond to consciousness. We are the creators of reality. So therefore, when we have a benefit of a thing called global warming to be created, we're the ones that created global warming. You can talk about cars, you can talk about emissions, you can talk about whatever you want, and they'll be the science or not, whatever you prefer to believe. But it doesn't matter because our consciousness created an opportunity for our Earth to experience extremes in weather conditions because there's a value in the backdrop of the canvas that we're all painting on to experience these anomalies. So it doesn't matter what we call it. It doesn't matter if it's global warming, if it's scientifically proven. It doesn't really matter because we created it. Did we create it by not honoring the earth? Maybe. If you're not honoring the earth, then you're not living in the vibration of love. If you're not living in the vibration of love, you're not living to a high vibrational energy. So it's still asking you to pay attention to something you haven't paid attention to. So within this canvas that you're painting your life on is the canvas of your neighbor and your lover and your child and your boss and your politicians and your religious leaders and your entertainers and your neighbors and your bosses. And all of these canvases are all around you. Everybody's vividly trying to paint their canvas to have it reflect the life that it is that they want. If you think about those images where they were very popular a while ago, where you take a billion photographs and you see one photograph and then you pull back and pull back and pull back and ultimately you see a portrait of something made out of a billion little photographs. That's what this is like. You pull back from your canvas and you start to see the image of our reality here in physical existence on 2017. And your piece in that matters. Energetically, that piece is significant. There's nothing about you that's insignificant, because your canvas not only touches all the nearby canvases and every single person that comes into touch with you, but when your canvas reaches another person and has any influence, positive or negative, then the canvas of the person that you influenced is also influenced. And then every person that they touch is influenced by the influence of your influence on them. It's endless. So you are really significant. What you're thinking right now is on some level, with a lot of degrees of separation, influencing a person who's sitting in China at this second. That's how significant you are. So in all of these canvases that we're painting, if the universe gives us these bonding moments over and over and over again, nut allergies, heart disease, cancer, autism, tsunami, terrorism, 9/11. If we're being given all of these things as gifts, as opportunities to awaken, to enjoy the process of accelerated enlightenment, and to get to the side where we understand what the hell we're doing here, and if we can't take those opportunities and shift what it is that we're thinking, then at some point the universe says, all right, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to start clearing the big canvas. All right, we've been working so hard on everyone's individual canvas. We've been working so hard on this. We're trying and we're trying. We're knocking on everyone's door saying, come on, just wake up. What's important? What matters? In the end, what do you care about? Right? Be the soul you are. Stop being the human you became. Be the best that you can be. So the universe is like, all right, we're knocking, we're knocking, we're knocking. We got to get these people to catch up to where the energy is going in the process of accelerated enlightenment. So let's just strip the canvas. Let's strip it. Everything that they thought they knew, we're going to take it away and make them unknow it. So you think you live in Orlando? You're free from a hurricane? No, sorry. You think you live in wherever and you're never going to have an earthquake? No. You think you can live here and you're not going to have someone raging with a gun? No. We're just going to keep stripping and stripping and stripping and stripping and stripping away what you believe to be true, what you've hung your hat on. So then you have no choice but to create your canvas by choice. You have to choose. If your house disappears in Irma, are you going to rebuild that exact house with all the same stuff in it? No. You're going to decide. You're going to decide from a different way. You're going to say, do I want to rebuild? Maybe I want to get an apartment. Maybe I want a bigger house. Maybe I want a smaller house. Maybe I want to rebuild right here. Do I want to use the same footprint? Do I want more bedrooms, less bedrooms? What's important to me? How do I want to live? This is a choice. The house is a metaphor for the clean canvas, but you're going to be actively thinking about what matters to you, how you want to live. So if we keep emptying the canvas, everything you do has to be by choice. So another example is if the retail world is shifting. We can all see that. Online shopping is completely changing the face of brick and mortar retail. So if that's changing, and say in 5 years, say 40% of retail establishments as we know it are gone. What are the ripples of that? It's not just that there's empty stores and landlords who own those buildings that aren't getting rent and they don't know who else to rent them to. But what happened to the retail jobs? What happened to people that are in college in a marketing retail program right now? What about people that are in merchandising? What about people that see their whole lives being in opening up their own retail store? How do they now reimagine their entire future? What if this has been their life for 35 years? Now how do they reimagine it? No one's giving them an alternative, so they have to, by choice, reimagine their entire future. And if 40% of retail as we know it goes out of business, that's a lot of people reimagining. Where are they going to go? What are they going to get absorbed into? What are they going to create? How are they going to respond? So each person, their canvas has been cleared. But if it's 40% of all retail, that's a heck of a lot of clearing of our collective canvas as well. This isn't someone else's issue or change. This is all of our change. This is a change we will all experience. Now, back when our process of accelerated enlightenment was going more slowly, or the process of enlightenment was going more slowly, changes like this happened. Yes, it's very hard to get a job as a coal miner today. But the changes happened so relatively slowly that they didn't have a major impact on the overall canvas of humanity. It was little pieces. Those individuals strive to paint a new reality for themselves, but we were pretty isolated from the shifts as they happened. And even bigger shifts, the textile industry moving over to China or India, even bigger changes that you would think would have more of an ability to knock on your door, they haven't really affected us, have they? Your clothing is as inexpensive now as it was in the 1970s. So how has that really affected your life? It hasn't really affected your life unless you worked in textiles or manufacturing. So these changes that are coming up, you're not going to be isolated. They are going to influence us just the same way Irma influenced people that thought they could never be affected by a hurricane. And that's what's happening in the shift of September 2017. We're being given an opportunity. We're being given an opportunity to step into what we have been welcomed into for the last 17 years. Now we're being asked to decide, are you in or are you out? No more warm-ups, no more prep, no more, I'm growing, I'm really trying to become more spiritual. I'm doing the best I can. Those days are done. You had 16 years to do that. It's over. The prep is over. It is over. This is it. This is not a drill. This is no longer a time to take your time learning to be who and what it is you are. This is it. This is it. This is what you've been prepping for. It's right here, right now. It's here. So how do you do that? A long time ago, I've always had people ask me about personality and characteristics. Do you have them throughout multiple lives? Does your personality remain the same? And I've been able to peek at thousands and thousands of past lives of people now, and sometimes in incredibly scientific ways. I have one client who has 300 typed pages scientifically examining the past life information I brought through for her. And that's just one client. I have so much scientific evidence of the validity of us understanding and knowing and examining our past lives. And that gives me a frame of reference for understanding how this slice of our reality fits into our eternal journey. So does someone have a personality that weaves in and out of every earth life? And the answer is no, we don't. But we do have an essence. We have an essence. The essence of our being, the nature of our soul, what we are eternally. It may evolve and it may grow, but it's always uniquely identifiable as us. You are no different eternally as you are here, but who you are eternally is masked and layered by the human experience. So really responding to all these changes on our individual and our collective canvases is to find out what is the essence of you. Instead of focusing on what people tell us to focus on, why don't you figure out what is the essence of you? What is incontrovertibly you? Why are you so original, so special, so unique, so unable to be duplicated? What is it about you? What is it? Why not be that? Don't be anything else, be that, and figure out what that is. Not just a little bit, but wholly. Figure out what that is. And that's how you respond to the changes that the universe is placing on our collective canvas. Is you get permission to continue to paint your canvas because you're doing it by choice. You don't lose your paintbrushes when everybody else is losing their paintbrushes. You get to keep your paintbrushes. And you get to step up and help other people paint their canvases too, because you're in the know.
What are some characteristics of essence when you say that?
An essence is, I'll talk about some aspects of my essence as an eternal being. Some of the things that are familiar to me that are not necessarily connected to the idea of personality. In the energy realm, I still have this incredible feeling of awe for really small things that other souls might overlook or just insignificant to them. It's not that they're saying that they don't like them. It's just not a curiosity that they have. So every earth life I've been in and I've witnessed, and when I'm in the energy realm without a body, I get to see this essence of me is this, wow, that's so cool. Wow, that's neat. Oh, wow, look at that. That stays with me no matter how much hardship I experience in every life. That one bit of wow stays with me. Another thing is that I found I have a preference for how I travel with souls on earth and off earth. And my preference is I prefer either having solo exploration, exploring with one other soul, or two, or three, or four. My preference is to be in small groups. I expand when I'm in that environment, in every earth life and in the energy realm. When I'm with bigger groups of souls, even in the energy realm, it's not that I'm not happy. I'm still happy in the energy realm. We're always happy in the energy realm. But I don't feel as excited. I don't feel as connected to the experience. It doesn't feel as intimate to me personally. So that's a part of my essence. So I'm not a Las Vegas person. Mm-hmm. You know, if I want to let the universe paint my canvas of reality for me, I'm going to buy into that going to Vegas is a great thing. Everybody has to go there, take money, enjoy it, go to the shows, drink, gamble, do it all. And that's what the world tells me I should do and I should like. But I've learned that that's not a measure of my essence. If I fly out to Vegas with you, that's cool, I'll do it. If you pay for my ticket. But once we're out there, I'm going to go for a walk. And I'm going to walk and walk and walk until I find something awesome. And I guarantee it's going to be in the desert. It's not going to be in a building. So that's me. So I'm not going to fake being in a room with people gambling and drinking, which is great for people that like it, but I'm not going to fake it and say that this is a good time for me. So my essence is that I prefer not being in crowds. Even in the energy realm, my preference is to be in smaller groups. And we all have these. We all have these essences, these things that stay consistently. One of the fun things about being a developing soul is that we get to experiment and have an earth life where we go completely counter to our essence. And we usually wind up being pretty miserable. But then when we return home, we're like, what the hell was I thinking? You know? Come on. Really. Now you got to see in the absence of your essence what life is really like. So just enjoy your essence and boot it up next time a little faster in the earth life and you'll have a better time, right? So of course we get to experience in our bodies what it's like to be in the absence of our essence, or to not know how to bring our essence forth and to allow it to grow and breathe and be. You know, it's kind of funny. You see this with kids especially, and especially when they get to be in middle school and then high school, that there are these really narrow ranges of how you're allowed to look, be, talk, what you're allowed to focus on, what clubs you can join, right? Wow, that's a small group, okay? If I went in and made a speech in a high school today, the second I say neat, I lost half the audience.
Right.
So that's a narrow focus. It's neat that it's a narrow focus, but I would lose them. So in that narrow focus, what happens is people are culturally conditioned to not be allowed to remember what their essence is. So the breaking out of other people's expectations or limits or boxes that they draw around us, the breaking out of it becomes a little bit harder to do. I've had plenty of clients who said F it to the box when they were in high school, and I'm telling you, high school was a bitch. But after high school, it really got better because they already decided not to conform to other people's expectations of who they're supposed to be or how they're supposed to dress or what their preferences should be about anything. And so when they step into their 20s and other people are shriveling up and shrinking, they're like, yeah, this is great. And then they're hiring all those other people from high school, which works out really great for everybody. Okay, we keep them off the streets and we get to be our essence. But that's how this goes. High school is just an exaggerated version of what we're doing to each other all the time about what we can be and how we're supposed to look and how we're supposed to feel. I realized that as my self-love grew in those 2 years that I was taking off all the masks and layers of my human journey, I realized that there were some quirks to my personality that weren't always going to be easy for other people to live with. But my self-love really started to not care. And I am a little different than a lot of people. I'm fuel for poking fun at. A lot of people make fun of me on a regular basis. And I honestly did this. One day I said to my kids, I said, I'm going to seriously and honestly, today, for one day, I am going to be not weird at all, right? And my son turns to me and says, Mom, by you saying that, do you know you already blew it?
That's great.
Starting now, blew it again. All right, so I am weird, and I don't care, and I don't apologize to anyone. And I don't have to convert anyone to be my weirdness. I generally don't explain my jokes. And if you come along and you want me to be in your vicinity, that's fine. But if I'm too odd for you, I'm really okay with that too. I really am. Okay? Because if you don't laugh at my jokes, I probably don't think you're much fun to be with anyway. So there you have it. We're all good. But you know, it's funny how when you start to be yourself, you realize how the world is not set up for you to be yourself. And when you watch other people trying really hard to be themselves, what they're really doing is they're creating a fictitious version of themselves and putting it in your face because they think that just being different makes them themselves. So even when we're seeing, oh my gosh, she's so unique, she's so original, they're usually forcing themselves into this expression that doesn't really even exist, right? But someone that really just is the essence of their being, it's very uncommon. It's very uncommon. It's very uncommon. Exploration of the soul comes in, is really understanding how to paint your canvas in a way that it reflects your essence. The essence of your being. I want to tell you a really quick little story. I have a client, she and her family, they're all like genius scientists. And I've done sessions with everybody in the family. And the first time I ever did a session with her son, a lot I don't open up until I talk to the person. I can get a lot if I'm communicating with someone, but there's like this permission thing going on. I'm never going to violate anyone's privacy during a session. So I have to have a sense that the soul gives me permission to talk about something before I will talk about it. Does everyone understand that? So this is the first time I'm doing a session with the boy. I know him really well through my clients, but I don't know him. So I do a session and boom, so much opens up. It was like, wow, this is really cool. And the first thing that I get is he's got this real high science labby job in Manhattan. Works for a really like brilliant firm, and he does really important work. And I'm getting this, and he's perfectly qualified to do it. And as I'm trying to talk to him about career advancement and where he wants to go next and should he get another PhD, I'm trying to talk to him about all these sensible decisions. And the only thing I get is I see him on an island with a spear and a coconut. And I can't get the image out of my head. And we're going and we're going. I'm trying not to, because this is his first time actually talking with me. He has faith in what I do because of his family, but he's got to learn firsthand. He's a 27-year-old kid. He's got to have faith in me directly. So I'm not going to tell him about the coconut and the spear as we're talking about a PhD at Columbia, right? So finally, I'm so damn distracted by the tropical winds and the palm trees. I finally say to him, I say, listen, your guides are giving me an image, and it's distracting for me to keep seeing the image without being able to interpret it for you. So can we just talk about that for 1 second, and we'll get back to the PhD? And he's like, sure, what's the image? So I tell him the image, and I heard the most audible sigh of relief I've ever heard on the phone. And I was like, well, why did you sigh? Are you like overdue for a vacation? I know why he sighed. Why did you sigh? Are you overdue for a vacation? And he says, that's just like the best image I've heard in years. And so we talked more. The whole direction changed. And instead of talking about the PhD at Columbia, we only started talking about choice and simplification and what's his essence and what does he truly want. Not what his dad wants, but what does he want? And as we started to talk about it, he was able to discover for himself that this high stress, very, very high stress life that he had manufactured for himself in Manhattan was the antithesis of the essence of his being. Wow. Did not get a thank you card from the father.
I was going to say, did you get a flyer?
The father did not send me a thank you. Some people just really are not appreciative. Not at all. I was doing a group session with a bunch of kids that just graduated from college. We were doing, we met quarterly to help them launch from college life into adulthood. So you try that out. And we're doing a session, and this girl, she had graduated college and she was in law school. She was in a really good law school, and I'm reading her, and I get, wow, I don't know if she's in law school all the time, but I'm getting, as I'm reading her, I'm like, just do anything, but just don't become a lawyer. That's what I'm getting in the reading. And I can't say this out loud because I now have to, I got to try to be graceful with people, right? You got to kind of put a little feeler out there. I'm not going to say, you're thinking about your future. Your guides are saying you can do anything on the planet, just don't become a lawyer, right? So I don't say it, but I start to say, well, what's your undergrad? What are you thinking about doing next? Because I have a feeling that your guides are trying to suggest that there's a place for you that you're going to feel really compatible with your soul's intention, and there's another one that might not be. And so she's like, all right, just lay it on me. What is it? I said, well, I can see like the field of psychology or psychiatry being something that would be really outstanding for you. And then there's another field, like let's say law, that might be a little bit more repressing. And so she's like, well, I'm in law school, and I hate it. And she's like, one of the reasons that I'm here in this group was to figure out what the hell I'm doing. How am I going to manage being a lawyer for the rest of my life because I really hate it? I'm like, all right, well, this opens up us up to some conversation. So during the next 6 months or so, she dropped out of law school. She went back to school to get her PhD in psychology. And
thank you, no.
and again, I have to say there was no thank you note from her mother or her father at that time. You know, it's disappointing the lack of thank yous that stack up on my desk sometimes, but no thank you, absolutely no thank you. And it was really fascinating to watch her because as soon as she got permission to do this thing that was going to piss off her parents, she's thriving. I'm not going to tell you what state she lives in, but she has a radio show, a psychology radio show, but like mainstream, and she hosts it, and it's actually kind of like pretty popular, and she's thrilled. She's so happy. Her family's caught up to her. There's no longer a picture of me on the dartboard in their house. What state? But it's like, as you know, it's like that sigh, right? As soon as someone gives you permission to say, I don't really like what I'm doing, or I don't really like who I'm married to, or I really just don't like my mother. You know, as soon as someone gives you permission, don't feel guilty. It's okay to say that to yourself at least, and then figure out the steps to take now that you're aware, you're consciously aware. Being unaware doesn't help anybody. You can still stay with that husband or wife, or you could stay with that job, or you could stay with that mother, but at least you're aware that you're choosing to stay, right? It's a big difference than being there because you think you have to or you're guilted into it. So consciousness of your essence is the key. And I'm going to give you, this is something that I've been hearing from the guides today, but here's, what time is it? I could talk for 24 hours right now. I'm going to tell you something that I've been hearing a lot from the guides today that they wanted me to share with you tonight. And because I know I'm going to get caught up in it, I'm going to give you a break now because I know I won't give you a break if I start. So I will give you a break. And I want to say a big thank you to one of our beautiful guests here, Sue, who these are actually fresh from the oven.
Wow.
Fresh from the oven. They're still warm. There's condensation on them. I had a choice. I could have gone like that, and nobody, nothing to see here. But I'm making a choice to share my happiness with you. So thank you, Sue. So in addition to having coffee and water and my books and other stuff back there, you can also share with cookies. So thank you, Sue. And we'll be back in 10 minutes because I have a lot to say. Feeling good? Much better? Much better?
We're going to see if you remember where you left off.
Let's see if I remember where I left off. Maybe something new will come to me. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, you never know.
Very important.
What are the guys want to share?
Hey, everyone.
I'll be one of those annoying elementary school teachers that starts flashing the lights, right? Yeah, there we go. I got to do that with my consciousness, though. I don't want to have to walk all the way over to the light switch. So I'm working on that. I'm working on that. All right, so just before we start again, just what my calendar is coming up. In addition to the Big Give, which is on September 23rd, which is a Saturday, we're going to have, and Happy in 90, of course, is always available. www.happyin90.com. That's my 10 years worth of personal growth, communicating with guides, trips to the energy realm, coaching, speaking, writing books. It's all condensed into a 90-day program. Start the program. At the end of 90 days, you'll be happier than you were when you started, guaranteed. Okay? If 90 is too big to bite off, there's a 30-day version, a 60-day version, and a 90-day version. Ask me any questions if you want, but it's I'm going to tell you it's a really, really, really good program. My path to happiness is in that 90 days. So if I didn't live it, breathe it, know it, do it for myself and with clients, I never would have put it out there. Okay, but it works. It works. Thank you. Okay, so enough about all this. Let's get down to business. You guys know your canvases. Okay, now I'm gonna tie something together with a message that I've been bringing through for quite a lot of years now. And the message is, I'll start out with the message. And the message that I remember when I channeled this, I was actually, I was so excited when I channeled it, but it was basically in order to grow love of self, love of others, you want to live in a state of honor. And honor it's a word, if you take it out of anything to do with what we're taught about honoring parents or honor in the military or anything like that, but take it out to the pure form of the word honor. To honor means to value and to respect and to appreciate. So to grow in our ability to love means to honor everything that exists. So you start with honoring yourself, and then you begin by honoring other people, and then you continue by honoring the planet, our animal kingdom, our plant community, our earth, our universe, all physical existence, existence itself, our eternal journey. And then you continue and you honor ideas and you honor anything that you can honor. When you live in a state of honor, your soul grows and your human masks and layers melt away. It's impossible to live in a state of honor and to live in a state of negativity. Okay. So when I channeled the sentence, and I think I even have it on cards and I was giving them out for a little while, but when I first channeled it, it basically said to live in a state of honor with yourself, with others, with the animal community, the plant community, and ideas and existence itself. That's kind of how it went. And it's very, very true. Oh, do I have it? Really?
Well, I have it.
Oh, how cool. Oh, all right, this is a version of it. It doesn't talk about the focus of it, but this is just a different version of it. I am one with the universe. When I honor anything outside of me, I honor everything inside me. When I honor anything inside me, I honor everything outside me. So thank you for having that, because it does kind of explain the idea of honor. But what I want to talk about is like the specifics of what we can focus on that we honor. And let me put it into the context of all of us came here believing that we could grow in our vibration of love. Every one of us altruistically intended to grow in our ability to give and to receive love. The most important of all love is self-love, because without self-love, everything else that you build is a castle in the sky. So in order to grow anything that you focus on, you have to develop your self-love first. It's the position of a foundation, strength, courage, being the essence of who you are. It's living to the richness of you, and from that overflow of abundance, you have plenty to give to others, okay? And it's limitless. The well never dries when you love yourself. So the second thing that you can do to grow your ability to love is to honor others. So let's take a peek at that. In our period of accelerated enlightenment, we've noticed a few human experiences, journeys that have become big news, right? Just in our short lifetimes, they've become really big news, right? First, we were looking at, race difference, black versus white. That's what we were looking at. Then we started looking at women's rights, women versus men. Then we started looking at gay rights, and there was the whole AIDS that brought so much into awareness. And all of this keeps going and going, and then we start to say, all right, well, I accept this, I tolerate this, I'll live with this, and oh, we're all so good. How kind of us that we're accepting and tolerating all of these differences. And then we get to, oh, gender identity, you know, you were a man, now you're a woman, oh, come on, what's wrong with you? Oh, wait, I finally accept that. I will also share the planet with you. Just don't come into my space. So we've seen all these things pop and get really big and really fast, far faster than in the last millennium, the last 100 years, the last 200 years. All this is happening so fast. It's almost like it becomes news, and then we have a different perspective. So in the process of accelerated enlightenment, we're giving people a lot more opportunity to understand that everyone has the opportunity to be exactly who they are, and we don't have to explain it, we don't have to apologize for it, we don't have to get approval from other people. We just have to have permission to live freely and as we want to express ourselves and as we experience ourselves. It actually is no one else's business. And so that's where we're getting to. We're getting to the point that there's going to be a space where there's no judgment of race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, family choices, income, socioeconomic status, education level, car we drive, number of kids we have, whether we're married before we have the kids, whether they're the same color as us or not, whether they're adopted, whether they're not. All of this will just dissolve. And we'll all say, ultimately, I think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic that everyone, with permission, gets to be exactly who they are. They get to be what they feel in this body. And it really doesn't matter to anybody what it is that they experience or express. When you live in honor, there's one little phrase that I think kind of summarizes the importance of this. It's first do no harm, right? If we can just live in that one quick little bit, first do no harm. If you're not hurting anybody, if you're not bringing damage or abuse or neglect or hatred into anybody's life, everything else is fair game. Do whatever you want. First do no harm, but then live the way you want to live. Any way that you want to live. And you know what? I don't even care if you want to change it up every 10 years. If you decide that you want to go through 10 lifetimes of exploration in one earth life, and now you tell me you're gay, and now you tell me you're straight, and now you tell me you're not, now you tell me you're asexual, I really don't care. I don't need to analyze it. I don't need to understand it. I don't even care if you understand it or not. But how you choose to express yourself is fine with me, even if it changes. I don't care. Does that mean that I think we can just keep changing our sexual orientation? I don't care about that either. I really don't. It really doesn't matter, does it? In the energy realm, we don't give a shit about anybody's sexual orientation or preferences. We just don't care because it's not relevant. But on Earth, the only thing we should care about is first do no harm. Live in honor. First do no harm. Don't hurt people. Don't be hurtful. And when you judge people, you are hurting them whether you're verbal or not. If you judge people, you are hurtful. So first do no harm by being mindful of your own judgment. You know, when I started this journey, for some reason I had this lane in which I created, I don't know how, because I had a pretty crummy childhood and I didn't really have a frame of reference. But I created this lane that was relatively judgment-free in comparison to most people. I don't know why. I just had this sense that it didn't feel good if I judged anybody for anything. So all the basics that I just rattled off, it's never been an issue for me, and it's been incomprehensible to me in my entire life how anyone else could ever have an issue with it. That's my lane. But as I was growing and developing, and I set out this goal for myself, I wanted to become the least judgmental person I'd ever met. That was my goal. I didn't want to fake it. I wanted to be it. I wanted to be it. And it wasn't to prove anything to anybody, except that I wanted to experience the vibration of what it felt like to live without judgment. And I did it. And it took me, I concentrated on it. And it took me, it sounds like a short time, but I had started from a pretty decent place to begin with. It took me 5 months, and I wasn't going to stop until I was there. And the way that I did it, the way I set it up for myself, was that I was going to take whom I characterized as the most reprehensible, unlovable, hateable, detestable person that ever walked on this earth. And I was going to choose who that was for me, someone that was still alive, and I was going to, every single day of my life, try to feel love for that person. For 5, I did this by myself. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want anyone's opinion, and I didn't want anyone telling me that it was stupid. I didn't want anyone knowing what I was doing. I set that goal up for myself, and I wasn't going to stop. I didn't know how long it would take. I thought it might take my whole life. And every single day I tried, and every single day I failed. Every single day. It got to the point that this object, the metaphor for my personal hatred epitomized in this one human, I felt like I was living and breathing and eating with him 24 hours a day, because that's how important it was to me that I be able to feel love for him as a way of releasing judgment. I'd already known everyone's doing the best that they can within their level of awareness. I already knew part of his childhood, so I knew why he was so, pardon my French, I'll just say effed up. I knew that, so it wasn't a big leap to go from the knowledge of how he became the human that he became and to see how his path went awry. It was easy to see. I got it. The cause, the effect. I got it. I had a messed up childhood too. I know the imprint it had on me for a long time. So I didn't have a problem with the philosophy of it. I just couldn't feel any love, all right? So I did this day after day, and I actually, for the first time ever, I felt something that I've heard people describe as depression. Like I started to feel a lack of love for life because I was going through this, and I just couldn't feel any love for this human. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to get through it. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep doing it. One day, it was in August. I'd started late February. It was in August. Did the same thing I ever did. Imagined love, loved other people, put myself in a loving state, did every single thing. I've tried every trick in the book. And this one night, all of a sudden, I felt an overwhelming amount of love for that man. And I can remember it. I remember sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And I remember feeling like the weight of the world was lifted from me, and I would never have any more issues or concerns because I was free. And I realized I was free of judgment. How could I ever judge anybody again if I could feel love for that man? And it worked, because from that minute on, I am not brought down by judging others. So in those forms of love and honor, first honor yourself and then honor others. The second most important of all of those is others. You know, I know that there's a lot of people that focus on animals or animal shelters or helping a particular plant species and make sure it doesn't go extinct. And I know that feels good and wonderful. But if you're watching out for a plant and you're being mean to somebody in your house, it doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it. The other stuff is the backdrop for us painting our canvas of our soul. So yes, being good to a plant is certainly going to be better than not being good to a plant, but it doesn't replace also being loving to people,
That's awesome.
right?
That's awesome.
And you know, I've had lots of clients, and I still do, that they withdraw from interpersonal relationships, and they do find a great love of an animal or something in nature. And yet those who are my clients, they find their peace in this world, whether it's breeding horses, or it is gardening, or it is saving a species, or it's doing something like that. And they find peace in it. But in that peace, their hearts are expanding. They can't bring that to relationships with people because they were hurt so badly as children that they lost the trust factor. But their love is still growing, and they're not doing any harm to anyone. So that's good, because if you exercise the muscle of love enough, you might be able to use it on a person. You might be able to feel a little bit more safety. You might be able to let someone approach you, or you to approach them, or even expanding in that vibration of love and overcoming what someone took away from you when you were a kid can help you vibrate differently, that you start magnetizing in people that are trustworthy, that do have your back, that can love you and support you and appreciate you. So it's not that focusing on the planet or animals or anything, any natural resources, it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's not an instead thing, okay? It's not instead of. Let's get back to the love of others. All right, this is something that I get to see. I live in the most wonderful way that I get to draw in and magnetize in the highest vibrational people on the planet. I get to experience it. It comprises the majority of my life. I have a free pass for what most people experience in a kind of difficult life. I have a pass because I really don't have to deal with most of the things that anybody else is dealing with anymore. I have this carved out lane. I carved it out by changing who I am, changing how I see the world, and this is the universe's response to me. So I co-created it, but this still is the result. I know I get to live in a happier lane than most people live in. Yet, even when I'm watching people grow in their spiritual development and understand the things that it is that I talk about, I am now listening to people disparage one another because they're not spiritual enough. Yeah, exactly. Ow. So, you know, as I was saying, it's love of the planet and animals and plants and, you know, all these other things. And one of them that I said is ideas, okay? Enlightenment and the philosophy behind it and the energy behind it, it's still an idea, and we can talk about it. A lot of people talk about it but don't live it, right? They're striving and striving and striving. They want to live it, but all they can do right now is talk about it. But if you choose love of an idea over love of others, are you getting it? No, you're not. You're not getting it. You're not getting it. You're not getting it. I read something that popped up the other day, and it said strong, it's something we all heard, but strong people lift others up. They don't need to pull them down or break them down. And I realize how true that is. If you need to step on the back of someone else to feel good about yourself, you are very, very, very weak. Get yourself up there by yourself and not by crushing somebody else to stand there, okay? So there's never an excuse to be unkind first to anybody. There's never an excuse to enter into someone's space with unkindness. I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if you did a 36-hour shift. I don't care if your lover of 7 years just left you. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care. You never have the right to enter into anyone's space unkindly first. You don't. It's not living in a place of honor. And you're certainly not honoring yourself by doing it, because if you are spiritually aware at all, you're going to feel guilty, and you should feel guilty because it's not the good thing to do. So at some point, you're going to be worse off than you were before you said it, because you're going to realize that you have to make amends. And you really can't make amends. You can apologize, and you can bring gifts, but you're not going to undo what you did. You're not. It's there. It exists. Everything exists all the time. So why start something that you don't want to have to finish? And even if you don't have the light go on and say, I shouldn't have said it that way, or I shouldn't have done that, even if the light doesn't go on for you, then you're going to spend time justifying your behavior and blaming the other person for the way that you behaved. Is that living in honor? It's not. You're not living in honor. If you blame other people for the way you act, you're not living in honor of others or living in honor of yourself. I know that kindness is a great thing. I know it's a great platform. I have no problem in saying be kind first. Because I also think that we're not a bunch of wet noodles, and we're not a bunch of doormats, and I'm not putting myself out there for you to wipe your feet on. Okay? If I love myself, that means that I'm going to choose how people interact with me. And if you come to me unkindly first, I'm going to do my best to diffuse it. I'm going to do the best I can to do with kindness. But if you don't respond to that kindness, I will protect myself before I protect you. So I don't think we have to be these mushes, spineless, letting people crush us whenever they want for their own whatever, growth, experience, mirror, humiliation, whatever the hell they're doing. We don't have to be that beat up bag for them. But we do have to be kind first. It's not so hard to be kind first. To be kind first to an idea, an animal, a plant, a planet, others, and ourselves. So be kind first. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. And you know, when I was peeling off my masks and layers, and I would have concepts that were intellectual and philosophical, and I would have these brilliant moments communicating with guides, and I'd hear something new and something new and something new. They were exciting, they were rewarding, but I still knew that there was a difference between having it in here and having it in here. And having it in here is better than not having it at all, but when it's here, you're accountable. Before it's here, we could still say you're doing the best you can within your level of awareness. But once it's here and you know it, you have activated choice. If you choose to behave counter to the process of enlightenment, then you are dishonoring everything. The idea, others, yourself. So if you want to really live in a way that you're painting your canvas, first, do no harm. And second, love yourself. And third, love others. And then all the other stuff, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever order you want it to be. But it's not so difficult to do that. It's really not so difficult to do that. And I'll tell you, you know, I used to think, well, I think for a lot of people it just means that when you put your head on the pillow at the end of the night, you can sleep because you have nothing to be ashamed of. But it's so much more than that. It's not just not having regret that day. It's not just that. It's that you feel really good, and the energy of that goodness bounces back to you, and it bounces back to you in profound ways. Not even necessarily directly to your kindness. It bounces back to you in ways that you can't even necessarily imagine. You might be kind unexpectedly, and then you may get a check in the mail. Sometimes it literally pays to be kind, because energy responds to energy. It doesn't necessarily choose a path of your choosing, all right? Just the same, the corollary is if you are largely fear-based, you might obsess about one particular thing happening. Well, that might not be the way that your soul wakes up to a new discovery if that thing happens. Because if that thing happens, you're going to say, see, this is why I worried about it my whole life. Now here it is. That doesn't really help out much. But if you're fear-based and you're continually pumping that energy of fear out there, something else can come and show you that that energy brings challenges into your life, so that you have a better opportunity to say, I don't really like living in this state of discomfort anymore. I think I'm going to opt out of fear. I think I'm going to live in freedom and self-love and love of others and first doing no harm. And this simple goal, this very simple goal of living in honor and first do no harm, if you can just keep that in your mind day after day after day after day, and change your approach in every single thing it is you do, make that your lens, you're going to find that your canvas gets more and more beautiful despite everything else that's going on in the world, despite how other people are suffering, despite how other people are in a state of stress or chaos or dis-ease. You're going to find that your canvas is getting more beautiful. And those beautiful canvases, by the year 2020, those are the ones that are going to be here to help all the others that are ready for enlightenment. So we need point of light, strong points of light, to bring in those who are just learning about it for the first time. So you start painting your canvas as best as you can, intentionally and consciously now, for yourself, for others, and then down the road because of how humanity's canvas is changing. All right, it was interesting when I first really started to delve into wanting to grow and learn and become enlightened, even though I had no frame of reference for it. Every day was a brand new day. Never had read a spiritual book, so I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Even though I still set it as my goal to listen to everything guides were telling me, because they'd already proven the value of what they were sharing with me. I still found that the growth and the experiences might not have happened as quickly as I wanted them to, but I did stick with it and I did pursue it, and I did find that one of the consequences is that I had so many fewer challenges happen to me. I never knew that that was a consequence of enlightenment. I thought that what happened was when you became enlightened, you chose a different attitude to the things that happened to you. And that is a step in the path. It's how you react, right? That is a step on the journey of enlightenment, to choose your reaction to the things that it is that happens. However, the all overriding consequence that I don't think anybody talks about is that ultimately when you live consciously within this state and you strive and you get there, your life actually becomes a lot easier, because you are now a magnetic energy for goodness and abundance and freedom and creativity and limitlessness and awe. And that's what you live. And so you're happy. You don't have to keep working at being happy anymore. You just are happy. Okay? We're all good? Okay. Be kind first. Be kind first. Okay. All right, now, I don't know what time it is. It's late. So what I'm going to... Huh?
8:55.
Okay. As you all know, I'm going to take everybody's name who's in attendance tonight, and we might go a couple of minutes over. Did I? And we're going to... I wish I had a empty cup. Anybody have an empty cup? Is it really, really, really?
Well, drink up.
Oh, just pour it on myself.
I got it.
One of the two, that was the second choice, right? Say that was the second choice.
All right, so I'm putting all these names in a hat that looks like a cup. And if you don't just mind staying a couple minutes late, I'll still do 2 readings. And thank you all for hearing out this concept tonight, okay?
Great.
Thank you.
I should get the college credits listening to that.
All right, so the first one is a guest, James Bruno. Hello. Hi, James.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good, good. Glad to see you came back after the half.
I don't have a choice. I need to run. I enjoyed your talk. It was very good.
Okay, cool. So you don't know, but the way that this works is when I pull your name out of something, you have an opportunity to ask a question about anything, and I open up to your world and answer the question. So it could be personal, global, it could be about the night's topic, whatever you'd like.
Wow, that's a really broad.
Yeah.
Stroke.
You want me to choose someone else first and I'll get back to you?
Yeah, give me a minute.
Okay, we'll choose someone else first and then we'll get back to you. Okay? So you can see it modeled by an old timer. And the next one is Patty. Patty.
Go for it, Patty.
Patty. You know how this works, Patty. Demonstrate to James how this works.
Well, one, I welcome the essence of whatever my guides would like to tell me, path I'm on, and just this journey this year, job-wise, it's just still going all over the place. So,
Okay.
if you can give me
Yeah.
specific, yeah, I'm not happy with the job that I'm at, and the path that I took in jumping off from HSBC.
Right.
And now I'm between Chase is coming after me and another company from Florida called Lengenuity, and it's another change. It's, do I change? Which way do I go? So.
Yeah. Yeah, here there's some openings in Florida.
Yeah, really.
No, they're coming into New
There.
York. They're coming into New York, so it's a Florida company coming here to New York.
Okay. All right. Patty, I'm gonna do my best to answer you personally, but I am also gonna use you as an example, and I'm gonna apologize up front for doing that because the answer might not feel that specific to you. Okay. All right. Patty has been growing spiritually, and she's really wanted that to be reflected in her career choice. So leaving a 20 to 30-year career and changing it has been something that she's been preparing for a couple of years, and really trying to get herself vibrationally and spiritually behind the shift. Okay. Now, I think that her courage is tremendous. I think that her heart is good. I think that her spirituality is really trying to be reflected in the new career path. But there are some limitations in the corporate world, and the corporate world doesn't necessarily operate according to spiritual principles. So we always have to examine when we're wanting to do something, because it's a measure of our soul's intention. We also have to measure the physical facts about what is that industry or that company or that boss, what's their level of awareness. So we may have the courage to amp up a change and move to something that seems more compatible with us, but we also have to take into account, as you're seeing in this example, that we have to take into account the level of awareness of the parameters of where it is that we're going to. I do find that the more spiritual we become, the less simple it is to work for somebody else. And the reason is that whomever you work for, you are going to have to take the level of awareness of your boss and the organization, and sometimes even the industry, and you're going to have to dial down 10 to 20% of their level of awareness, and that's all you can be or contribute in that group. Because we do operate in this world still by ego. And when a human has a low level of awareness and they have an employee, their ego is going to ordinarily sabotage someone whose level of awareness is greater, because they don't understand that energy and they see it as competition, even though they can't define or explain what it is that's happening. So as your level of awareness keeps increasing and you become more enlightened, there's fewer bosses and organizations that you can work for where you get to be your limitless self and really do and create goodness and put good ripples into the universe and into the waters of humanity. So the first thing I'll say is that it is the reason I'm an entrepreneur, and I have been since this started. I can't really work for anyone else because it would be very difficult for me to find someone or an organization whose level of awareness was higher than mine, so that I had a place to grow and expand and be everything that it is that I can be. So I'll be an entrepreneur for life. So that's the first thing, is to consider that entrepreneurship may be the step that's still left after you become very, very, very enlightened. But then when you do choose entrepreneurship, it's really important that you bring your earthly stuff with you. Meaning you got to get rid of your scarcity issues, you got to get rid of your fears, you got to grow your self-love. Because you can have a great vision and a great idea, and you can have a great skill set, and you can be incredibly altruistic. But if you still got some human sludge pulling you down, you might get broke, okay? So that's it, and I know that Patty herself has toggled between an idea of an entrepreneurial path, but there are fears in that, and we equate certain parts of our life if we're putting someone through college, or we're a certain age, or responsible for other people, we tend to say that it's important that we have some kind of predictable stability. And it's not necessarily easy for us to get rid of all of that idea that we can be limitless and succeed. Anyone can succeed at entrepreneurship, but it's important that they get rid of the stuff that's anchoring them or pulling them under the water first. So in Patty's case, it seemed like a good move to go from an industry that was not allowing her to parallel with her soul's intention to an industry that would allow her to. But entrepreneurship for her, where she is in this part of her life, would be the better path, because nobody would be shackling her, okay? If she can get rid of any fears of scarcity, and she can really believe in herself and develop the concept freely and creatively of what it is she can do, she can step from a wonderful income into a healthy income in entrepreneurship as well, all right? But in most cases, if I'm coaching someone and they want to move from paycheck to self-employment, in most cases, you know what, we're human. So I always suggest that we do a little bit more of a ramp movement. You kind of phase one out while you're phasing the other in. And there is this critical point in the middle where your basic needs are met effortlessly, and you can see that your self-income is self-perpetuating. Then resistance melts and fear goes away, and then you can amp down one and amp up the other. It's a graceful way to do it, and it's honoring the fact that we are human and we got some baggage, okay? So if you're considering that, always think of that ramp method. Take one down and bring one up. And when you get to that critical point, then you can make the leap, all right? Our energy of resistance, of fear of failure, fear of not having money, can sabotage our new path. This system helps you to get to the point that you let go of fear, okay?
Can you just list all of the companies that, you know, like in the meantime?
Oh, that I'm looking for.
There are definitely some things that I would like to start at some point, like maybe by 2020. But you know what? I'm not going to go spending $1 million creating a website to do this. But what would be a great idea is for us to have a website where people are actually reporting on high vibrational energy organizations. Okay, I don't want it to. It's not going to be a complaining session. I don't want it to be a complaining session. There's enough in the world to complain about. But tell us why this company is vibrating high. Whether it's your interpersonal relationship with them, something that they did specifically for you, or something that you're witnessing in the community, or something about how they are as an employer. But just prove in some simple sentence, or make a statement or a testimony, that this is a high vibrational energy organization. Because commerce is shifting, and ultimately, I can't tell you the exact year, but there will be a day, and hopefully soon, where any commerce or industry that's working toward making a profit, if they're not coming from the vibration of love, they will fail. The only way that's going to happen, if we accelerate that happening, is to only honor the organizations that are operating in the vibration of love. Okay? You can't emphasize the power of your dollar. Do not spend money with shitty companies. Just stop doing it. Don't spend money on 3.5 ounces of food packaged in a 20-ounce package. Don't do it. You're not honoring your planet. Don't do things that don't seem like they're living in a state of honor, okay? If you want to be living in the planet that you want to live in, if you want to be on a high vibrational earth, you got to do it with every step you take. I've said this before in this group, I'm amazed that at the peak of how many people were living in our house, a family of 5, and we're putting the garbage out twice a week, and we're putting one small can out. And we look up and down, well, a couple lives there, 3 people live there, and everybody else has like 3 or 4 garbage pails every time, 2 days a week. We're putting out like 1 pail once a week. And oftentimes the pail is half empty. And I'm like, why is that? It's because we live in honor. We're not buying packaging so a company can have a profit. We're buying product. We're buying healthful, whole foods. We're not supporting greedy companies. We're not supporting companies that don't honor the planet. To the best of my ability, this is how we live.
And
we
they're
don't do so.
recycling and they're not.
Yeah, and I'm recycling. And I don't do it out of rage. I do it because it's the only choice. You know, like if I were to ever peel back a wrapper and I have a 20-ounce package and 3.5 ounces of food in there, I might first feel uncomfortable about the organization, but I'm going to feel uncomfortable about myself that I bought it and I put my dollars toward supporting this. So don't support the things that you don't believe in. Your dollars is the way to show your power. It is through your dollars. Nothing else talks as loud as a dollar, okay? So I figure if we have a website, one day someone will volunteer to do it, but if we have a website where we can put in good stories about good companies, and we need a moderator, because if I write something wonderful about Trader Joe's, which I'm going to do probably every day, if I write something wonderful about Trader Joe's, I don't want someone else coming in and saying something horrible about them because they have an agenda, all right? So, you know what, one time I brought a new baby home from the hospital, I was craving sushi, someone ran to Trader Joe's and got me sushi, and I bit into the sushi and a live grasshopper popped out of my piece of sushi. That happened, and that's real. It's fresh, and I still love the company because they live in the vibration of love. Right?
Did that happen to you?
It happened to me. Yes.
Did it really?
Yes. Brand new baby. All I want is the damn fish, right? And the grasshopper jumps out of
Only you.
the sushi.
Oh,
The
yeah.
advertiser in Cambodia.
So, you know I love Trader Joe if I am still writing good things on our website.
Definitely do.
But, you know, listen, like, even if I'm coaching someone in a job search, if they want to stay in the same world that they live in, that's fine. You don't have to be some kind of superhero with your courage. Respect where you are. And, you know, maybe try to get a little more courage up once in a while, but it's perfectly okay to accept where you are in this moment and strive a little bit. So you don't have to be dramatic about any of this, and you don't have to be judgmental of yourself over this. But even when I'm coaching someone to find a new company to work for, I said go to the business section and look for a good heart story about a company. Apply to that company. Don't apply to any other company but that company. Find another good heart story. Apply to that company. Find another good heart story and apply to that company. There's a lot of good heart companies out there. If they get employees and they get high quality workers that love life, they're going to make more profit, right? Mm-hmm. And those are the companies we want to succeed. So even though these crappy places, greedy places, inhumane places are going to go out of business, we will have a share in accelerating that process. We can have the right and the privilege to accelerate that process. Make the dinosaurs go away. They don't need to be in our society anymore, okay?
So
that's
see
my
which
answer.
company I feel the vibration of love?
Absolutely. And there are exceptions where you can find an outstandingly high vibrational energy boss even within a kind of iffy organization. That's okay. You can still carve out this nice little place in that as well. Okay?
Okay.
All right. And I also say show up as your best self at work and don't ever be less than your highest vibrational energy self, because you can affect things. I've had one of the largest credit card companies in the world. I coached the head of their tech department. She has 5,000 to 6,000 employees, okay? When I met her, she said there was no way she was going to change the culture in the tech department, in the data department. No way she was going to change it. 2 years later, that tech department, that data department is 100% different than it used to be, because she never, ever, ever towed the corporate line in the way she treated her employees. Never. Never. She never did it. She was afraid of getting fired, No one ever fired her because the company was becoming, her department was becoming more proficient, more productive, more happy. There was more loyalty, and so so what are they going to do? We think you're a spiritual nut job, we're going to fire you? Well, then you have to deal with the consequence if you do that. You actually can infuse this energy wherever you are. So if you have to be stuck in something that doesn't have a high vibrational energy, be the high vibrational energy you want to see in the world. Don't go home and complain about it. Go back to work and be it. Be it. James, you had a very poor example of what this is all about. Yes, your Aunt Bertha loves you, about you, and you are the light of her life, even on the other side. No, I'm kidding. So what was your question?
Jeez.
So we've been faced with a tremendous adversity, and I just wonder, it's given us a lot more responsibility than we had previously, and it's kind of strained us to the point that we don't find as much time for enjoyment or relaxation, and I'm wondering how long it'll be until we find balance again and can kind of ramp it down a little, because right now the two of us are just redline all the time.
Okay.
To the point that I debate bringing more people into this world because I don't know that we can handle one more thing on our plate.
That's
All
a
right.
good question.
I think that's awesome. I think it's really
Good to see you
sweet
coming.
that you would even say that in front of everybody. That's awesome. Way to go.
Good to see you coming.
And first timers usually do ask something like, I'm thinking about changing my phone number. Is it a good idea right now? Are there any digits in particular that might work for me? But we could go full out. Okay, let's go full out. Okay.
No pressure.
He's a very
Great.
sweet person.
Yeah,
Very
that's
sweet
great.
thinker.
All right, so for some people in the room, what I'm about to say is going to sound familiar, and it might be a review, and I think you can never get this review enough, but I'm going to tell you exactly how you can respond to this and shift things, okay? Whenever we have a challenge land on our doorstep, there's a process in how we can respond to that challenge, okay? Most of us do the best we can, or we react, or we might even elicit the worst vibration that we've ever had in our lives and stay in that vibration. But what the universe is really asking us to do is to take these steps. Number one, ask yourself, what benefit is there in this challenge? To you, to her, to each other, and to others, okay? You might be able to find a little low-hanging fruit, like it's easy to answer, that there is actually a benefit in it, but it's not just about the easy-to-find answers. It's about contemplating it and sleeping on it and resting with it and giving yourself time to mull it over and let more and more answers emerge. What is the benefit in this challenge? Because the universe will only give us challenges when there are woven benefits in there for growth and opportunity and discovery, okay? We're never given an opportunity that doesn't have value for our own discovery in it. It's to bring us to a better place, not to bring us to a worse place. So first you find out what the benefits are. The second thing is that, and you'll see that you gain the ability to do this with experience, but the next thing to do is to interpret the metaphor in the challenge, okay? There's nothing on the planet that happens randomly. Chaos theory has taught us that everything happens with purpose, and everything is ultimately patterned. So if something lands on your doorstep, that means it's full of purpose. So if you interpret the metaphor of how that landed on your doorstep, you get to understand how the universe is communicating with you specifically. I'll give you easy, unemotional examples so you can see how this works. So for example, if I decide that I want to ditch my job and become an entrepreneur, and just as I'm about to do this and hang the shingle in the window, I break my right leg. The metaphor is that I have, the right represents our earthly journey, the left represents our eternal journey. So if I break my right foot, it means that I'm not ready to take the next step in my earthly movement. It's representing my fear, and it's also giving me permission to step back because I'm not quite ready to take that step, okay?
Can you repeat that?
Wow, I don't know if I can.
Just
Okay.
about the right and the left thing.
All right. Your left side represents your eternal journey, all of your eternal wisdom and knowledge. Okay. The way that you remember that is, if you think about the organs that are asymmetrical, the heart only appears on the left side, and the left side, the heart is metaphoric for soul and heart and creativity and love. Okay. The right side represents our earthly existence, being human in a human body. So the way you remember that is that the liver only appears on the right side, which is the toxin removal center. So being human, there's a lot of toxins in being human. So that's how you remember it. So if you break your left foot, it means you're not listening to moving your direction in a way that you know is paralleling you with your soul's intention. You're not listening to that infinite wisdom within you. Okay, if you break your right foot, it means you're just on an earthly level, you're just not ready for that step. Okay? And in addition to breaking the foot, preventing you from putting the shingle up that day, you also get to bring in extra love and attention because people rally around people with broken foot, whatever, those things. So then you also get buoyed with a little extra love, and that could give you the courage that when the foot heals, you feel whole again, and then you can have the courage to put the shingle up. Follow me? All right, so another quick example would be your battery doesn't start in your car, all right? So it could be that your energy is depleted. It's that simple. So figure out why your energy is depleted. Are you taking on too much responsibility for other people? Can you give people their baskets back? Take it out of your basket and give it back to them and let them shoulder the responsibility? Do you need to infuse more imagination into your job life? You know, where is your energy depleted? Do you need to change how you are nourishing your body? Do you need to change some physical habit of taking care of the vessel? So every single thing that happens on earth happens very specifically to communicate with us, all right? Very specific. So first interpret the metaphor of the challenge, and second, find the benefits within the challenge. When you figure out those two halves of the equation with any challenge, it helps the remedies and the solutions and the reharmonization to emerge, and it also helps you to have fewer challenges because you're living in a conscious and awake state. Does that help? Okay. I do pick up from you, James, that I don't know who said that you're very deep. I think you said it, right? So aside from that, there's something else I pick up about you, that you are on the precipice of really doing exactly what it is that we're talking about tonight, becoming the essence of who you are and not apologizing to anyone for being that, okay? There's a similar vibrational energy between you and Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain refused to live as humans expected him to live, but he also burnt out because he couldn't assimilate into the human experience. You got a little bit of that in you, but you can choose to live harmoniously and comfortable, even though the human experience doesn't set us up always for being successfully the essence of our own being. You can choose it anyway and live very, very happily. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. All right, that was a compliment, so don't listen to it.
Huge compliment.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how that came across. Like, I get it. I'm like, wow, I didn't take that. Okay.
You said his name, I felt he like walked right through me. It was like so weird.
Okay. I'm sorry for keeping everybody late. Tonight, just remember the theme. If you can just remember a couple of simple things. Love yourself, live in honor, first do no harm, be kind first. Take those 4 simple things away from tonight, and your life will continue to improve. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you in October. Come to the Heart Walk. Thank you.